Hello. My goal here is to give everyone a quick introduction to Lightroom by simply doing what most of us do every time we take photographs, which is come home, sit in front of our computer, get the photographs into the computer, um, maybe do some adjustments to them, and then export them into a format that can be used to submit them to a competition. So that's what I'm going to do today with Lightroom. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start Lightroom. So I clicked on the Lightroom icon, and now Lightroom is coming up. We'll give it a moment to load. And here it is, coming up. All right, and in order to be comfortable with Lightroom, you do need to understand how it's physically laid out. So let's take a minute and look at how Lightroom is laid out. What Lightroom has multiple tabs, multiple panels, probably more accurately panels. And if you look at the top middle, the left middle, the bottom middle, the right middle, you'll see little arrows. And the little triangle arrows hide or display the panels that are around the perimeter. So here's the top panel that has the name Lightroom, that's configurable, and the names of the modules, and we'll be coming back to that. If we hit the little arrow, it goes away. Here's the left panel, and here we can hit that and make that go away. Here's the right panel, we'll hit the arrow and make that go away. And then the bottom panel, and we'll make that go away. So now all we see is the center panel. Okay, now I'm going to bring them all back because I want them all, but I just wanted you to see that. Also, I want to point out that the panels are sizable. So if you position the mouse over the border between the two panels, you can then make them bigger or smaller up to a point. So here, this one, you can make it smaller or bigger, and so forth. Okay. Um, Now the next thing I want to point out is these modules that are up here. Notice there's library, develop, map, book, slideshow, print. Most of the time, most people really spend most of their time in just the first two modules, library and develop. So that's all we're going to talk about, library and develop. There are two, think of it as in effect two separate kind of programs within Lightroom. So library is all about organizing your photographs, categorizing your photographs, importing your photographs, exporting your photographs. Develop is all about making changes to your photographs, and you know, and you can make changes to one photograph, you can make changes to multiple photographs at a time. But develop is all about developing your photograph. In other words, darkroom kind of activities, except it's Lightroom, since we're working with light as opposed to uh, you know reflected light. So, okay. So what we want to do, and by the way, notice how most of the panels change when you click on them. So the character of Lightroom changes completely pretty much depending on what module you're in. So right now we're in the library module. Now I just a few minutes ago took my camera outside and snapped a few photographs. So what I'm going to do now is take the memory card out of my camera, and I'm good. And my computer happens to have, a lot of computers have this nowadays, an SD card slot. My camera uses SD cards. So I'm going to pop my SD card into my computer. So here we go. I'm going to put that in there. Okay. And now it's in there. And then I am going to click on the import button over here in the left panel. Import. All right. Now the Lightroom senses the presence of my card, and it offers to import everything that is on the card. And now my camera creates different folders for different days. So here's some pictures I took on May 31st, and here's some pictures I took on June 2nd. I'm actually just going to import these because those are the ones I just took a few minutes ago. And over in the right hand panel is what will actually happen once I start importing. So first of all, notice that it's going to copy it. There are other options here. Let's not worry about them right now. We're just going to copy the photographs from our memory card to the computer. Okay? And down here is a area called destination, and it remembers the last place you imported pictures. Your actual place will be different than mine. I happen to have a folder on my C drive called Docs, and within that I have folders, and the default Lightroom behavior is it'll create a folder for the year, and then within the year it will create a folder for the day. So we see now that within folder year 2021, it's going to create a new folder 2021 June 2nd for today and import these 13 photographs, and that is exactly what I want. There are other options you can decide during an import. You can apply develop settings. You can also add keywords. So for example, I know these pictures were taken in King of Prussia, so I'm going to add King of Prussia, and then that keyword will get added to the metadata, or really to the database, but we don't have to worry about that right now. But that's helpful in the future when you want to search for a photograph. You can add as many keywords as you want. Here's where it controls the way it organizes, by date and the date format. You can change that. Everything's very configurable. What else? Oh, if we want, it can rename the files, which I don't do. That's basically it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import. So here we go. So if you look in the upper left hand corner, we've got a little progress bar, and it's going ahead and it's importing my pictures. Now these are raw files, so they take a little bit longer than JPEGs do. Imported, and then some additional work like creating previews and things like that. But we can go ahead and start looking at our pictures now. So I think what we'll do now is we'll go to the develop module and we'll take a look at our pictures. So so here's a picture. Now notice this information here. It tells me the file name, it tells me the exposure time, the settings I used in the camera. Whoa, look at that, ISO 12,800. My camera is set for auto ISA, so it just decided to do that. Here it's telling me the millimeters and the lens that I was using to take the picture. That if you press the I key, you can toggle between not showing that or showing this information where you see the date and the time and the resolution. So, but I actually prefer this. I like to see the ISO and the settings. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at, actually let's go back to library, and then let's just quickly make sure that, so these two pictures look very identical. So I'm going to press the X key, and that rejects this picture. So what that does is it marks it for deletion, but it doesn't delete it. We'll come back to that. So here's a picture of a rose and a wasp. It looks a little blurry. If we click on it, we can zoom in, and yes, indeed, that's pretty blurry. Oh, it's still loading. Oh, yeah, still blurry. Let's try this one. Is it any better? That's a lot better. So let's keep that one. Let's reject this one. Here's some mint and a nest that fell from underneath of my deck. And here we have my bird feeder, a little bit of activity. And if we want to, we can review at, so that's not bad. That one's not so good. I'm going to delete that one, or mark it for deletion. That one's kind of neat. I like that he's got a seed in his mouth. That one I don't really care for. I'm going to mark that one for deletion. This one's entertaining. It's got action in it. Okay, so we'll keep that one for now. So we've marked a few for deletion. If I hit Control Backspace, it will offer to either remove the 4 rejected pictures from Lightroom, which means they're still on my disk, or delete from disk, which will physically delete the pictures and also remove them from Lightroom. I'm going to do that. I'm going to delete them. So now it's deleting them, and now it's finished. So all we're left are the pictures that I did not delete. Another thing you can do at this level, at this, in the library module, is you can categorize your pictures in various ways. I'm a big fan of using the stars. So for example, if some of these pictures you really think have potential, you might give them anywhere from 1 to 5 stars. I'm not going to do that right now because honestly, I don't think any of these pictures are that great. I just took them to have something to work with for this video. All right, so now we have these 9 pictures, and let's move to the develop module and play with that. So the first thing I would do to this picture is crop it a little bit. So I'm going to click on the crop button, and by default it crops at the same aspect ratio as the photograph, which is fine for me right now. I'm just going to cut out that desk a little bit and maybe just go with this for now. And then it has auto settings, which I like to see. They're not always what you want, but sometimes they're good. So let's try it. Well, not a huge fan of that. I do like the way it lightened the shadows a little bit, but I don't really like what it did to the rest of it. So notice in this left-hand panel, we have a history of everything we do. It's important to know about Lightroom that Lightroom never actually changes your pictures. It never actually physically modifies them. It just applies the edits and it keeps a record of the edits. So you can always step backwards. You can always go to to any point. You can it never actually physically modifies your photographs, which is very nice. So let's keep the crop, but didn't really like the auto setting. And then perhaps what we can do, I think maybe we should crop in a little more. The picture is really about my dog's lonely looking eyes, so maybe we'll try this crop instead. And let's step up the shadows a little bit. Maybe just a little. And notice how this being at ISO 12800, we've got some serious noise. So if we want to, we can skip down to noise reduction and apply a little bit. So let's just go with this, okay? So you get the idea. there's a lot of different kinds of edits you can apply. I'm not going to really go into that in this video. This is more just to show you um, an introduction. So we can crop in on this a bit, you know, and so forth. See what auto does. That's fine. I guess that's okay. You know, I mean, obviously, this is not a great picture. Okay, so this is the sort of thing, you know, that we can do, and there's all kinds of wonderful um, edits and ways to view your pictures, but we're not going to get into that in this brief video. So let's just say that now I'm finished. So now I want to export a picture. I want to submit this picture of my dog to the competition because pictures of my dog always did so well in competitions. Um, you know, let's do that. Okay. So what I can do now is I can click on, I'm right clicking on the picture and I'm choosing export. Now it's very easy to create what are called user presets. So user presets are presets that are suitable, that you know, that you always want to use for a particular destination. So for example, comps is the Upper Merion Camera Club settings. So let's not do that. Let's just choose export. And then what we can do is we can see what sort of options there are. So first of all, it wants to know where you want to put it, and I have a folder called Docs Photo Staging Comps, which is fine. I'll go with that. I'm not going to rename it within Lightroom. I'm just going to keep its original name. Video doesn't apply. We can hide that if we want. We want it to be JPEG. We want the color space to be sRGB as opposed to any of these other ones. The quality, 80 is fine. We want to resize it. We want to resize it to a width of 1920 and a height of 1080 because that's the resolution of the Upper Merion Camera Club projector. We can sharpen for screen. That's a very subtle thing. You can also strip out some metadata if you wish. Sometimes people like to do that to maintain privacy. For example, if you click remove person info, then anything about you that maybe your camera knows will be removed. I'm not going to do that. You can apply a watermark. You of course don't want to do that for an Upper Merion competition. And after export, yes, let's show it in the Explorer. So we will click export. It goes ahead and exports. It's working on it. And boom. So here's our export. It opened up this folder for me. And if we double click on this, it brings it up in Faststone. And here's our picture that we just exported that has all of the Lightroom adjustments. So we just went through the entire basic workflow, and we can spend a lot of time drilling into any of the many capabilities that Lightroom has to further improve your photographs. Thank you very much.